Oh, okay, great. Yeah.
Else is sick and fucking tired of seeing all the carnivore shit all over these fucking apps.
She may be sick and tired of all the carnivore shit, but we certainly are not. This is the Meat
I
of the
love
Matter
that. I love that
podcast.
introduction. That
This is the
introduction was
Meat of the
brilliant.
Matter podcast, where we meet, you matter, and we don't care what they say about the carnivore shit. We're here to talk about all things that matter. And we talk about stuff. That is Mark. He is Peter. I am Tony. We are here live Sundays. When we get the times all sorted out because of this daylight saving conundrum, we'll figure it out. But it's 11 a.m. today, 10 a.m. next week, I think. But we'll see how's it going. How's it going, boys?
All good, sir.
Great.
All good.
Well, I think we're just going to get into it because we might as well lead off this. Like, I wish we could have her on, but we'll just start with this and we'll see how it goes.
I don't know who needs to hear this, but cortisol is not the cause of your fat gain. You just have shitty fucking stress management skills. You're using food and alcohol as a means to cope with that stress. It's not the fucking cortisol, okay? You cannot gain fat or retain fat without an excess of calories. And before you come in the comments section,
All right, let's just stop it there. How do you feel about that one, Mark?
Oh my God. So first of all, she mentions it's just food. She doesn't mention anything else. She doesn't mention anything about sleep. She doesn't mention anything about chronic undereating. She doesn't mention anything about overtraining. She doesn't mention anything about lifestyle factors. I think that this is something that they just don't understand, especially chronic eating. Chronic eating is a huge thing. Chronic undereating is a huge thing. And you know what the thing is? All of these things that I've just mentioned, they all have one thing in common. They all cause stress to the body. Now, if there's a lot of stress on the body, that's going to cause an insulin spike. And this is why people have issues when it comes to their food. And then she has the audacity to say it's just because you're eating too much. Well, maybe if you understood why people are eating so much in the first place, we could actually have a decent conversation.
Totally, Peter. You're on. What do you think?
I'm not muted. No. So I hope you can hear me. Yeah. No. I'm always amazed by this. I don't know the English term. It's probably myopic view on things. That you just look at one thing, like the horses that have those side thingies around their eyes. You just look at one thing, like LDL or whatever. And they are not very original as well. Those people, they think with some primary school degree on calculating that they know everything. So they show like, I'm very good at counting calories, and they think they have the answer, and that's of course not true. I mean, of course, calories matter in the very end. In the very, very end, mass matters, right? There is this. It's about mass, and okay, if you're lucky, you can find a relation between how this energy exchange affects the mass. That's the whole point.
You know what? I completely agree. I think the what quality versus quantity, even like whatever you're measuring your energy in, like you want to call it calories, fine, but we don't use calories, we don't burn calories, we know that. But what I'm starting to realize, and I don't know if you guys agree with me with this, but it's like if you are taught or told something and you are just regurgitating the stuff without any real world practical experience, whether it's a doctor in a clinic, whether it's a scientific researcher, whether it's a 3 social media guys that that have lived it. That's the problem I have, is that they are talking like I can read a textbook. I know this. Yeah. Okay. Sure. You want to talk about cortisol, but you want to talk about, it goes deeper than that. It goes deeper than alcohol and food. Like you can't just regurgitate the shit and then blame anybody else who is, trying to figure this out on their own, that they're an asshole. And, we'll get into this in a couple minutes because we got another couple things to talk about. Mark, you're on fire this week. I'm not going to lie. It was awesome. Your videos have been like bang on. And you know what? It's just, there's a lot of ways to skin a cat, but I went to nutrition school and I realized it was so wrong. Well, how did I know it was so wrong? Because I felt it and I was living it. And that's a huge problem. And we just get, And I mean, I know we're just voices, but we're opinions, and we've experienced things that arguably are impossible. Peter, with your type 1 diabetes, if you just listen to the doctors and listen to all the stuff that they're telling you, where would you have been there? Like, what would have happened, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I dare to say that, for example, when it comes to type 1 diabetes, for sure, that I know a lot more than even an endocrinologist sometimes, when it comes, at least when it comes to practical matters. And certainly if you would go to a nurse at the hospital, or even worse, a dietitian at the hospital, they don't have a university degree even. I mean, for what it matters, for what it's worth. But those people, they go to, let's say, intermediate schools here in the Netherlands. And that's what they do indeed. They learn from the books. And that's not much different from what you do at primary school. You absorb the information you get from your teacher. And you're not, well, of course, at school they teach some critical thinking, but and I imagine even at universities and those nutrition schools, they try to do it to some degree, but in the end, 99% of what you learn there is just stuff you absorb from the books, and you never see the actual research behind it. And they may even teach you things about statistics and give you the idea that you are statistically well versed.
Yeah,
but I don't think you are.
I'm the same. Like about 20 years ago, I did my degree in nutrition. It took me 2 years to get it. All the information that I was given was completely wrong. And 20 years later, they're still teaching this in colleges and schools, and it's just incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And every time we hear these social media people, they're always going off these researchers. They're always reading something off. They see something on Google. They've heard it from somebody else, but they actually never talk to the people that are actually doing it, like the three of us.
Well, and it's like we put each other in these boxes. And I don't know about you, Mark, but like dealing with clients and stuff, you got to find out where they're at. And I mean, just the same stuff for everybody. There's so many different variables, and it's just saying, well, it comes down to this: eat less, move more.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't doesn't dig into any of the stuff that you have to be aware of, where your lifestyle matters, your situation, your illness, your physicality, your stress levels, your family. These are all just they make it sound so easy, and it's just like, it's very simple, thermodynamics. And then they throw in this, the studies show. Well, show me a study that proves you love your children. And if you think about the scientific method, show me a study. There's certain things you have to feel, and there's certain things that when you feel, and that's the thing that drives me crazy, is that it's all the same plug and play information, and there's always nuance,
Yeah, you absolutely nailed it, Tony, because I sent you guys a message before we got on this YouTube. I only took on a client today. This guy is in his early 40s, and he was told that all he has to do is lose weight. There was nothing mentioned about his lifestyle. There was nothing mentioned about his health. This guy thought he was healthy, but he was walking around with gut issues. He was walking around with mental health issues, but nobody was addressing the root cause of his problem. All they were saying was, in order for you to get better, you just need to lose weight. Losing weight is not going to fix the problem. Simple as. Because plus, first of all, if the diet's not right, you're going to be miserable. So that's going to add more stress. Yeah. So yes, you might look amazing from the outside, but if you're feeling like shit internally, what's the point? What's the point in doing it?
Like I have a client. He's been with me for a couple of months now, and when I take people on, it's like the hardest thing is to let go of what you think or what you know from the past. What has got you to this point? You got to think outside the box. So I spend the first couple months really hammering home like the foundations. Like, you have to focus on essential nutrients. Of course, that in my opinion, the easiest way to do that is to eat meat and fat, like when you're dealing with essential nutrients. But there's nuance. There's all this stuff that's going to get in the way. How hooked are you on carbohydrates and sugar? Where's your metabolism at? Where's your gut biome at? Like just going, if you just go from like, I mean, a lot of people, they report when they go vegan, they feel better. Well, you're eliminating a lot of the toxins that are sort of like, you could say the modern day toxins, but you're still at the end of the day, if you're not getting essential nutrients, the diet is going to fail. Why?
Yeah.
Because it's not about energy. It's about nutrients. And that's
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, Tony. And that's the biggest frustration I have when people talk about carnivore is they said the first thing they say is you feel good because you're eliminating processed food. But that's what you should be doing for any diet.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't make a difference whether it's paleo, whether it's vegan, whatever it is. When you remove processed food, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's where it comes down to. And then what you mentioned as well, that you have to factor in people's lifestyle. You have to factor in what these people do for a living. There's going to be a lot of people probably watching that are sitting at a desk all day. They don't do any exercise and they're just looking at a screen. That's just going to cause an awful lot of stress. There's people that are working on building sites. They're on their feet all day, nearly 10 hours. That's going to cause stress. So those two people's caloric intake is going to be completely different.
Exactly. And I think that's a big thing. I don't know how you feel, Peter, about this, but you being a guy that has to wear a CGM, when I start people off that are kind of just brand new, they have no idea what's going on. I say insulin, they say diabetes, and I'm like, no, this is the problem. Is the hormone?
It should be part of school or of high school. I don't know, some school where you get
I
to
get
wear
them
a
to wear a CGM for 2 weeks for a lot of reasons. Like my first reason is when I start explaining blood sugar, explaining insulin. When they see it in real time, they can see that it doesn't really matter what happens. It matters that the food reacts. Like they can see the difference in these different foods. So quite often I tell them, don't change a thing. Just do me a favor, wear this. And then when I start explaining how this all works, they can relate because they see it in real time. And then you have doctors that say it's unnecessary. You have
I was in a discussion with somebody on TikTok in the comments about oats. And I think the story was about there is this influencers making continuous stories about carnivore diet. And he was talking about oats, that they are healthy because it lowers LDL. It's good for the microbiome and all those things. And then I explained that this GI, the glycemic index, and fiber are overappreciated because people think that suddenly the sugar spike is, goes down to 20% or so. And that's absolutely not the case. It maybe goes down to 70, 80% if I just talk from experience. And if you eat a bowl of normally, a regular guy would eat 50 or 60 grams of oats in a bowl of oats, I guess. Yeah. As a diabetic, I would do less, say 30 grams. I would still see a spike. And the difference of fiber between, let's say, processed oats and steel cut oats or something like that is minimal. It's 10, 20%, and you'll still get a glucose spike, or it might be stretched out a little bit, and it's still the same story.
Okay, Peter, that's a good point. Mark, Peter, I'm going to show you this video. We're not going to play the volume, but we're going to read it. And that brings us to another point here. Respectfully, Mark, you put this video up, and I'm not going to play it because we got Lady Gaga copyright problems. Respectfully, you should be trying harder to hit your fiber goal, not your protein goal. I don't know what the hell she's eating, maybe some soy balls or some donuts or some shit, but young people aren't dying of protein deficiency. They're dying of colon cancer. That is
Sorry, Tony, go ahead. Sorry.
No, but that right there, are you kidding me? Like this young girl who's probably got a following of some kind is telling young people that fiber is more important than protein. Now we can just start with this. What are you made of? Okay? Like what are you made of? If you can tell me you're made of dark leafy greens, we don't have an issue, but we do because we are not made of that. And if you're telling people fiber is more important than protein, I have a lot of problems with that. What do you guys think?
And can I just add one more thing? When we get older, what's the biggest factor people struggle with? Sarcopenia. I actually asked her. I said, listen, I need you to look up sarcopenia. and let me know what it is. She never got back to me. This is the biggest factor people have when they get older, because this is when they end up losing. They have hip replacements. They
Yeah.
can't walk. Their mobility is all over the place because they lose fucking muscle.
Yes. And
They
bone
lose
density.
muscle.
Yes.
They lose muscle and bone density. And this is the big frustration I have. You see so many people who get older, they fall for this bullshit that you need to decrease your protein, you need to add in more cardio, and these people are falling apart. It's absolutely horrendous. It's horrendous. And like you mentioned, Tony, this woman's only a young girl and she's giving out this advice. And when you look at her following and you look at I looked at the amount of comments, and I'd say about 85% of the comments actually agree to her. That's scary.
Yeah. Peter, any thoughts?
Yeah, no, it's amazing. And yeah, I was still thinking actually about the whole fiber story, the things I mentioned just a moment ago. I'm surprised by the fact that you always got to prove these things. You've got to prove that you get a sugar spike. Well, everybody can see it on the CGM, and if you get thousands of stories of people experiencing that, apparently that's not valid. And it's the same with the other thing that we talked about, constipation, for example. Apparently, we have to prove that we are not constipated. All these thousands of carnivores.
Right.
We need fiber, apparently. And then a last thing about fiber, and I'm still planning to make a video about this, is the whole fact that something being beneficial, because fiber is beneficial in the right context, doesn't make it essential, or it doesn't mean that there are other ways of getting the same benefits. And for carnivore, it's fat, for example, and water. Water.
And isn't it amazing that every time we look at these people talking about these macronutrients, you've got one that's not even a nutrient, and then you've got the other one that's not even essential. But yet these people are convincing us on a daily basis that this is what we should be having.
Yeah, it's absolutely.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
And it's funny how just take a few steps back and look at everything from this huge 100-mile wide lens. Essential nutrients. Think about what that is. Think about what your body needs and go from there. Are carbohydrates beneficial? In certain contexts, maybe if you want to play around with your energy ratio. Is fiber beneficial? Maybe in a strong gut, where you're getting your sources from, what the hell is it bringing to the table? But these are not equal. They are not created equal. And when the big food, big pharma, big agriculture are driving you to eat more of these and less of the protein and less of the fat that you need to function normally, that's the thing that blows my mind. This is not even optimally. You need fatty acids. If you don't have them, what do you think happens? Your brain starts to fire.
But that's exactly why fiber is beneficial in those contexts, because it's the least bad thing.
Yeah.
Let's just go through the list. The most obvious one is the sugar spike. So fiber are less bad than sugar.
Yeah.
You need fatty acids. So if you don't consume meat or the other animal foods with short chain fatty acids, not those short chain fatty acids from plants, but the real ones, the bioavailable ones, then you'll get some fatty acids from the gut biome if you add fiber.
Yeah.
Then the constipation, we've got that covered because we take butter. And then the gut microbiome. What do people take to improve it? What do they take as prebiotics? For example, those Japanese milk bottles with prebiotics in it.
Yeah.
We drink or eat dairy, for example, and meat also contains things that improves the gut biome, all kinds of enzymes.
Well,
and I think that's more or less the list of benefits of fiber. And then there's only one left. That's the LDL.
Yeah.
The LDL lowering, but we don't care about that.
But you know what? No. What's funny is you say that, and people talk about microbiome, fiber, microbiome, short chain fatty acids, blah 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 blah. What about leaky gut? Because it doesn't matter what's in your gut if it's broken and it's absorbing shit that's not supposed to be there. So theoretically, you should build and get your gut stability, work on your digestion, enzymes, peptides, hormones. What makes those? Protein. So
Can I just add
without
one?
that-
Can I just add one more point as well? There's a big difference between fullness and satiety.
Absolutely.
So if you have a belly full of vegetables, yes, you're going to be full, but you're going to be bloated. You're going to be gassy. You're going to be walking around constipated. That's not satiety for you. That's not satiety.
You know what, Mark?
Sorry,
go on. Finish. Sorry.
No, go on. Sorry, Tony. Go ahead.
I got a great segue, and we're going to get right into this because you just led us right into this next one. But it's a perfect time to bring...
These guys are getting richer while you're getting sicker. Write that down. 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 These foods are highly processed, complete garbage, and I can promise you now, I wouldn't even give it to my fucking dog. Write that down.
Here we go. This is for write that down in this segment today. We're just talking about fiber. We're talking about vegetables. We might as well bring this
What they found is that low-carb diets contribute the most to early life deaths below age 70.
Really?
With people on keto diets, 28% more likely to die of any cause.
Really? Any cause of cancer, heart disease, take your pick.
Participants on an unhealthy low-carb diet, that means not carb, more unhealthy, low carb, more unhealthy proteins like more meat and bacon and processed foods, increase their mortality by 38% every year.
Wow. All right. Let's get into that. Let's do it. Peter, you start. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I have not seen the studies behind it, but I've seen a lot of studies like these. And what they would probably have done is first they make the mistake that they talk about keto and probably it wasn't really keto. That's very likely. And then it was in elderly population, I think, right? So in a setting of like in hospitals or whatever, I don't know how you call those places, but anyway, elderly homes, yeah, those ones. So they will probably just change their meals a little bit and add meat. So maybe it's not like they started eating hamburgers and Coca-Cola, because that's another confounder in typical studies. But here they probably will just add some meat, and they probably still eat mashed potatoes with it and apple, mashed apple or whatever. All those things that they give to elderly people. And of course, in that context, it's not going to help because you're going to overload them with even more, let's call it calories. Yeah. And it will worsen the health outcome, and things like cancer, diabetes, those things will no doubt worsen.
For sure. Mark, I know you're chomping at the bit. We lost Mark. I'm going to mention who that is. That's Joel Fuhrman. And I'm just going to read from my phone here that I Googled. Fuhrman has advocated eating at least 1 pound of raw vegetables and another pound of cooked vegetables each day, with emphasis on green vegetables, along with beans, onions, mushrooms, berries, nuts, and seeds. He also recommends eating at least 1 cup of beans a day. So already he recommends 1 pound of raw vegetables, 1 pound of cooked vegetables, and 1 cup of beans. What? Do you know how much food that's crazy? And benefit from resistant starch to increase the satiety. The nutritarian diet encourages whole plant foods, restricts dairy products, meat, snacks between meals, fruit juice, vegetable oils, and processed foods. Fuhrman's nutritarian diet excludes dairy and meat for 6 weeks, but after this period, a small amount of chicken and fish can be eaten. It's just, and this guy's gone on the Mark Bell podcast and said carnivore should go to jail. Literally. He's not even joking. He's saying, jail. Peter, you're muted. You're muted, buddy. You're muted.
Yeah, I was saying that I think they did the opposite than what I explained just a minute ago. So they removed the meat and they removed probably the mashed potatoes and replaced it with vegetables and beans. And that might be beneficial.
Yeah.
You might reduce your energy intake, your sugar spikes. So yeah, that way you can also probably find a correlation of 10-20% health improvement.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think a lot of times, Mark, I'm sorry, but you cut off. I was just about to get to you. And it is what you cut out. that's going to make a huge difference. If you stop eating shit and poison, you're going to feel better, obviously. But where does that go in 20 years when you are so protein depleted, your body's beg borrowing and stealing from its own tissues to cover the lack of essential amino acids? That is disease. That is dysfunction. That is frailty. Mark, your thoughts. Sorry, we lost you as I was asking about you. But what do you think?
Yeah, no, it's just horrendous. Like, it's just how people can say that, listen, we need to be on a low fat diet and being on a high fat diet is just absolutely insane to me. It really is. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. The evidence is there in front of you. What other research do you want there? I done a video on this today. There are thousands of people out there that are living this lifestyle. They're actually thriving. They're actually getting better. You know, I mean, this is not a fad. This is not a fad. So when people turn around and say, listen, when people are saying like, listen, people should be in jail for being on carnivore, you need to dig a little bit. You need to dig a little bit more deeper, because if it hadn't been for carnivore, there probably would have been a lot more people suffering.
And you know, like you tell my Fleur that her endometriosis is being put in remission and it's going away, that she's wrong. You tell my mom that her iron deficiency, anemia, and her frailty is she couldn't take 10 steps. She assumed a heavy meat, animal-based diet. She didn't cut out all vegetables all at once, but you tell her she's wrong. You tell my friend who has reversed impossible things, PCOS, glaucoma, that they're wrong. And it's wild how this inundation and this programming and people still buy into this, that you got to get over that. You got to get over that meat's bad. You got to get over that meat causes damage. It clearly does not. On the short term, I mean, we've all seen it now. You know, we have some carnivores, us 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years now that are involved with this, been long enough. We should start to see those detrimental effects. We should start seeing people dropping dead. We should start seeing colon cancer on the rise, because there's millions of people doing this now. And I mean, it's undeniable that it's just not happening. So study that. Now, just before we get to the next one, guys, I just want to remind everybody, please help us subscribe, hit that like button. We got to get this message out. We're trying to get this movement. I know we've done a good job as a carnivore community, but this is the part where we get to the beginners, we get to the new people, that, you know, we all have stories we like to invite you on, and we'd like to share your stories with us. Reach out to Peter, reach out to me or Mark, and we'll have you on and we'll have a little chat. We like to see people, and we're going to get to this. Bring Mark back on stage here. And now, Mark, this is probably closer to your heart, but we're going to do this one. Let's just move this here.
Do you think it's possible to bodybuild and put on muscle without carbs? I would love to know what you think. Thank you, James R. Great question, James. Not that all of them aren't great, but this one, needs some sorting out, because as I've said many a time, and I'm not alone, there's plenty of people who are on the same page, there is not just one way. And despite what some of these influencers are out there saying, and I'm not going to name names, but it does matter. It's not just calories in, calories out. It matters what they were referring to as your body type, which I take as ectomorph, mesomorph, endomorph, because clearly endomorphs tend to put on weight more easily than ectomorphs. That's kind of the definition of the body types. Endomorphs tend to be more heavy set, as we put it, whereas ectomorphs tend to be the opposite, very thin. And some of those ectomorphs can appear to eat like they have a wooden leg and not put any weight. And an endomorph can complain about, all I have is one cookie once a week and I explode, or making up. But with a carnivore diet, obviously you're getting a very poor source of energy.
Yeah. Sorry, Mark. I know we want to watch you train, but that music kicks in and we might get a little strike against that. But once again, like they just bash the carnivore diet like it's unsustainable. And obviously you're a clear example that you don't need carbs to put on muscle. And that's the argument, right? Like, what do you think?
100%. But he mentioned about energy. That was the first. That's what he mentioned at the very, very end. Yeah. Like, I've mentioned this many times. When I used to eat carbohydrates, I didn't have as much energy as what I have right now.
Yeah.
And when we look at building muscle, like, how many times do I need to keep telling people this? The only macronutrient we need to build muscle is protein. That's it. And then when it comes to energy, we have 2 energy sources. But this is what people just don't understand. People just think that we get energy from carbohydrates, but we also get energy from eating fats. So when you look at the first 2, protein, we need to build muscle. We need an energy source come from somewhere. We can get that from fats. We need to make sure that we're recovering. So how do we recover? We sleep. Very, very simple. You know what I mean? And then just basically hydration. Very, very simple. And then all you need to do then is go into the gym, add some sort of progressive overloads, and you will build muscle. That's it.
No doubt.
It's as simple as that. I haven't mentioned once that we need carbohydrates. Not once.
Yeah. And then, you get into this stuff, like he made an interesting point about ecto, meso, endomorph. And like an endomorph is a body type that holds body fat easily, can put on some muscle. A mesomorph is like your Arnold Schwarzenegger stereotype, where they can put on, they're genetic freaks of muscle building. Like a perfect mesomorph would probably, they argue that Arnold Schwarzenegger was a perfect mesomorph. I don't know exactly, and an ectomorph would be a skinny, a high metabolism, can't hold body fat, very lanky, long muscle bellies. But here's the thing. I've been my whole life, I was arguably an endo-meso. I held body fat. I could put on some muscle genetically, just with all things put aside. Well, now at 50 years old, 49, I'm the leanest I've been, holding the least amount of body fat, probably between 15 and 18 body fat percentage, with no gym, really. Like, I mean, obviously I'm physically active. I do things, but it's not been training regimen, bodybuilder, gym style. My body type has changed. Whoa, what happened there? How is that possible? I don't eat carbohydrates. I don't exercise like an Olympic bodybuilder, and yet my body type has changed. What's going on there?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. With no carbohydrates.
And when you eat carbohydrates, and when you eat carbohydrates, people don't understand that. Yes, you're getting bigger, but that's fat mass. That's not muscle.
Yes, because and it's also water. Look at. We talked about this too. When bodybuilders finish the contest, they go carb up. They just bloat. So your muscle bellies, like all your muscles, are loaded with water as well. The glycogen brings the water. Anyway, yeah, and that's just the thing. It's like, I don't necessarily agree with, if you are a precision professional athlete that needs something to get ahead, trial and error, playing around with your energy makes sense. I think it does. You know what I mean? Like, but is it necessary for the layman person who is just trying to lose weight? It's what the damage it's doing compared to what it's just ridiculous. And Peter, coming from a type 1 diabetic side, you talk about your exercise and your management of blood sugar. Do you need carbs when you go cycling? Do you need them?
No. I actually started last week again because I have not done long endurance exercise for quite some time. But I used to go full days on the bike. Yeah. And now, I think it has to do with the carnivore a little bit, that I am not so fond of long endurance exercise anymore. Yeah. But I can still do it, and I am going to do it a little bit again, because cycling is just very nice to be in the open air and go everywhere where you want. Yeah. Because otherwise you're always on walking and you don't go very far. But I don't need carbohydrates. I might before a climb or so, maybe take half a banana. Yeah. When I did a week of cycling from the south of Europe, I think across those 1,500 kilometers, 2 or 3 times, I probably took like a small banana when starting a climb or so.
But but correct me if I'm wrong, but you have to have glucose on hand just in case.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Right? So that's
so I don't count it, but also that I use rarely. and that's just amazing for a type 1 diabetic, that you can go weeks without a glucose tablet. And also during that cycling ride of 1 week
Peter,
long, I didn't hardly used it.
But Peter, you're wrong. Peter, you can't do that. Peter, that's not, you need carbohydrates, Peter.
That's yet another thing that we always have to prove, and it could be done, and unfortunately, maybe we should work on that somehow in medical journals or so. Case reports are perfectly well accepted. That we find some way to produce some case reports together with some doctors.
And have you guys noticed on social media? I've noticed it. There's a lot of people that are carnivore or keto, and they'll say to people like, listen, eating carbohydrates is in moderation. But then when you dig deeper into this, these people are taking TRT.
Interesting. That's an interesting look. And that just proves that you have to look in context. And and I'm a firm believer in, we get hung up when we're trying to start the carnivore way, or you're trying to start this animal-based diet. You have to take it for what it is, and you have to understand what you're doing in respect to your life. Like, if you are hooked, if you are a sugar addict, you need to cut out carbohydrates. There are people out there that can moderate it, but it's all contextual. And these bullshit people that are saying you need fiber before protein, like, that's dangerous. Like, that's not even and just look at my nutrition book here. I stand on it. This is this is bullshit. This is all fiber, all dark leafy greens before protein. And let's deal with hi Daniel, and let's talk about this question here. I did a carnivore diet for a year to heal my gut issue and skin's issues with no results. My energy was awful and I was miserable. Switched to a high carb, low fat with table sugar, and I'm healed with crazy energy. Interesting. Mark, do you have any ideas?
Yeah, so I'd have to speak to you a little bit more about this, because I'd like to see what part of the carnivore diet you did, like, and see how did you approach it. Like, was it all meats? Like, I'd have to discuss this with you. But if it works, the way I see it is, if it works for you and things are going the right direction, then nobody can deny it.
That's true.
So I'm not going to deny that everything's going really, really well for you. If things are going really well, then I'm not going to argue the case. Then just keep doing it. But I definitely would like to have. I'd like a little bit more feedback.
For sure, Peter.
I think that high carb, low fat. We talked about research showing that, for example, excluding red meats or so can be beneficial in those elderly homes, for example. And the reason why I think this is because they do see these results, right? I mean, they are correlations and they are there. And it's interesting to find out why this is, because it's observed. I'm not going to deny it.
Yeah.
But what you see is that those people probably start off on a high carb, high fat diet. So they will have mashed potatoes, meat. They will probably have all kinds of probably plant-based fats and margarine.
And that's one thing sorry.
That's the thing. They are overloaded with energy.
Yeah. And here's, one thing to point out too is, like, we call the carnivore diet the carnivore diet. But what we've got to realize is it's human nutrition, and protein and energy ratio. I honestly, if you're going to go high carb and low fat, well, we know the devil's triad is high fat, high carb. That's bad. And then you add the processed refined grains and carbs and sugars. Listen, there's a lot of ways to do things. And I do believe if you're thriving and you're feeling good, that's great. But that probably doesn't mean everybody can do it. And I've found when I'm teaching people about energy problems, most of the time, not always, most of the time, they have a sugar problem. They have, if they're overweight and or obese, it's a different from somebody who is metabolically active. We'll look at Paul Saladino, for instance. What he says works for him, and I sometimes I agree, sometimes I disagree, but it works for him. All the power to him. Do I think somebody who is 250 pounds overweight should do that. I don't agree with that. But these are tools. The carnivore diet is a tool. And what you've done, Daniel, is you've become your N of one and searched and found something that works for you. And I'm happy for you. And if it works, just be wary of all the signals. You know, like excess sugar in the blood is toxic. It's just, that's the truth. You know, like if you're spiking your blood sugar all the time. Go ahead.
And Mark? He just mentions that he just mentions that he was miserable. I'm pretty sure, and I'd like to get some more information, but I'm pretty sure he was just on a high protein diet. I'm pretty sure there wasn't enough fat in that diet whatsoever.
Well, and then and Daniel, thanks for the comments, guys. Please send your comments in. Thanks for joining us. Yes, definitely mixing fat with sugar messes me up. So you know what? That's true. And I mean, there's people out there.
There's one nice thing or interesting thing that's very similar to what Daniel says. You see it among diabetics. There are two approaches actually to drastically improve your diabetes treatment. And one is go low carb, keto, carnivore. And low carb is generally sufficient. But the other one, that's more like what Daniel is doing, is high carb, low fat. And that will also drastically improve things. Although I've not seen A1C values just as nice as on carnivore, but they will also be able, by only eating fruit basically and eating very low fat, they bring their A1Cs down to, if they are very lucky, 5.6, 5.7, that sort of things, which is huge for diabetics. It's super good.
Now,
it's on the edge of pre-diabetes, but still, I mean, it shows that. Again, mixed diet bad, and go, focusing on either one of those macronutrients, carbohydrates or fats, will no doubt improve things with respect to a standard diet. But I do personally think that you should go low carb. That will be the best one.
Here's the thing. This is kind of a little bit of like wisdom inside this is. You tried carnivore, you tried fat, and you're working through your own way of doing it, which is, you know, and there's a big, you still need essential nutrients. It still has to revolve around protein. You still have to have all your amino acids, everything there. The energy ratio is, you know, like I often I don't know what you guys think about this, but it's kind of like the Ben Bickman of alliteration. Prioritize protein. Don't fear fat, and control your carbohydrates. That might have a knot, like they might have dials. But I think on the general why the carnivore thing works so well is that it kind of eliminates the thoughts. Like you don't have to think about your protein, and I think that's the big thing. And I think meat is, you know, it's so nutrient dense, you don't have to worry about it, and I think that's where it is. But, you know, if it works for you and you're doing okay, just keep track of that. And don't, you know, we all feel this way about, I don't take things personally. Just be honest. And if you're honest with yourself, you got to be honest and really with a fine tooth comb, dissect how you're sleeping, how your energy is. It will constantly be evolving. And if here we go. Yeah. Why table sugar is toxic? Technically, it's toxic in the amount you're eating. So anytime there's more than 4 grams of sugar in your blood and it stays and hangs around, it's called glycation. It is oxidative stress damage. Mm-hmm. And you are causing stuff specifically with the brain and your myelin sheath, your nervous system. Your nerves are built with this myelin coating, and sugar damages it. So it's tied to a lot of things with elevated blood sugar. We have the metabolic processes. Sorry, guys, I'm kind of going off on my thing here, but we have the metabolic processes to handle sugar. It's the overload, constantly elevated. It's not natural. Sugar was in sugar cane. Try and eat it. You couldn't, because it's super high in fiber. So that's where I come from, is a natural thing. Some fruit has some fiber. It slows the glycemic load. But table sugar was not a natural food. It was not natural. Could it be a tool? Are you okay with it? You know, and we can go deep into this. I'll let you guys sort of chime in on this, Mark.
No, I completely agree with you, Tony. It's just that you just need to find out if it suits you and it's working for you. Then just don't change it, but I would be definitely questioning a lot of stuff that is what he's doing. A lot of stuff. I would have to dig deeper into how it failed, what he was miserable, because we're only going back off just a small bit of feedback here.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, if it works for you, keep doing it. But from what I've seen so far, I would have to question a lot of stuff. And I would think the main thing is that I just don't think you did it properly. That's just my honest opinion.
Yeah, fair enough. And Peter, do you want to chime in with your type 1 diet? Okay, and just before Peter answers this, I want everybody to imagine if they were type 1 diabetic. Peter, go ahead.
Yeah, no. So for me, it's obviously toxic because I don't have insulin. I don't produce insulin. But okay, you could say that it's not immediately toxic if your pancreas is working correctly, but you're still overloading your system with very fast energy, and the only place that it can be stored are your glycogen reserves in your liver and your muscles. And once they are full, especially if you continue to overload with carbohydrates, at some point they got to be stored in your fat reserves. And then when you're not in ketosis, when you're not fat adapted, those fat cells are more difficult to reach because your body will always grasp for the glycogen reserves over and over again. So those fat cells will just sit there. And yeah, there are several reasons why that's not a good idea. First, of course, being overweight or having the risk of getting overweight more easily. But let's put that aside because that's a whole different snake pit, I think. But also the fact, I think, that your fat cells just sit there and they are never renewed. Fat cells, they collect toxins and they can be easily inflamed as well. And so I think it's, and okay, maybe that's a bit of a personal opinion, but I think it's a very good idea to use your fat reserves to refresh them. I see a lot of weight difference during, not just during the year, but in terms of weeks only. And that's my fat being in ketosis. I use fat and then I store it again. So it gets refreshed and it remains vital, alive, let's say. It's not sitting there and collecting all kinds of garbage. And
okay, before we move on, Daniel, thanks for engaging. This is good because we get to talk about some stuff we don't normally talk about. But I'll explain another thing. Why is table sugar toxic? Well, sugar, table sucrose, is 1 part glucose, 1 part fructose. There is no necessary metabolic function for fructose in your body. Excess fructose, especially in the lack of fiber, the liver has to deal with it, and it deals with it as a danger. So now they're studying this. It's becoming way more apparent. You want to reverse fatty liver, cut out the fructose. It's a big problem, especially the high fructose corn syrup. So just be mindful. And Daniel, we wish you all the best. And we want, we'd love to talk to you a bit more about this because I'm always curious, and we want to know why these things are. And I think I would like to see a proper experiment too. But unfortunately, in my ethics, I wouldn't want to damage somebody with a bunch of sugar. Let's get to Journey to Health. What's the difference between ketovore and carnivore? Like, which foods are allowed on ketovore and that are not allowed on carnivore? Peter?
I think a lot is allowed on ketovore. Basically, everything that you eat on keto, maybe except even things like nuts. So, but the rule is that as long as you can stand those foods, if you're not intolerant to it, and you should still stay below, below the keto limit. That's basically the thing. And I'm actually a big proponent of ketovore. I think that would be actually great if the carnivore community would promote ketovore more, because it makes the whole low carb, proper human diet spectrum more accessible for people. And for sure, even I could include certain foods in the form of a ketovore diet, adding avocados maybe, or maybe even nuts if I wanted to, if I feel the need, but I don't feel it. But that's ketovore in my opinion.
Mark?
Well,
yeah. When it comes to keto, you're going to have more variety, whereas carnivore, you're probably going to have maybe 4 foods max. You're going to be focusing a lot on red meats, and maybe some eggs, water and salt. Pretty much, that's pretty much the diet. Whereas when you're on keto, you can add in a lot more. So like Peter was saying, we can add in nuts, we can add in avocados, we can add in cheese, and we can add in fish. There's you have more variety when it comes to keto, and I think that's a lot of people like to make like pizzas and ice creams and stuff like that. If you're going deep into carnivore, you probably can't do that because you're just focusing primarily on red meats, and that's it pretty much.
I think there is actually a slight distinction between what you mentioned, which is more keto, and actual ketovore. And I think the idea, more or less, I don't know the numbers, but the wife of Ken Berry is ketovore, right?
Yeah.
And she adds in veggies and that sort of things, maybe even mushrooms, tomatoes, every other day, so something like that.
I think to be honest with you, I think we get into the weeds with these labels, and in my personal opinion, I think when I'm explaining people proper human nutrition, and there's an argument and there's gray areas, but when the most important thing is that you're getting fat adapted. Your ketosis, even, it doesn't really, we track these things, and it doesn't really matter, because the more fat adapted you are, the more efficient you can become at using fat for energy. And I think it's a tool, and ketovore just sort of, it's all low carb, and it's a proper human diet framework. And when you're a carnivore, I mean, technically I would be a ketovore because I have sauerkraut sometimes. I mean, if you want to argue fine print, if I have some plant matter from here and there, coconut oil, like, I would be a ketovore. But I think these labels are sort of, they're good to start and generalize, but the technicalities of them, I think we get lost in trying to define things so much. And I think that's like, even with Daniel, trying to find your way is the most important thing. And I think sticking to what you think a proper human diet would be, and then feeling around where you sit is going to be, because I mean, I can't tell you this is good for you, or this is going to harm you or not. If your gut doesn't handle it, be honest, tell yourself this isn't working for me. And that doesn't mean forever. And I think it's just, we get put into these boxes where I believe animal-based carnivore would be a great place to eliminate these things and get back to it. And I mean, we all started low-carb keto, and then we kind of evolved. And I'm now at the point where I just eat for me. I just eat what makes me feel good, the amount I need. And, I'm not afraid to try things from time to time, where, sometimes I'll try something that stands out, and it's like, oh, I haven't had that vegetable for a while. But then I see what happens. I always am experimenting and learning from it, and not being, okay, carrots, they make me feel this way. And little things present themselves, just not feeling as good. That is a sign, and I think it's all very personal. And we get lost in these frameworks that, oh, you lost your carnivore card, Mark. You had a leaf, now you're not a carnivore anymore.
Yeah, you made a good point there, Tony, because at the end of the day, if you were fully carnivore, you wouldn't be allowed coffee, you wouldn't be allowed to eat eggs on the diet. So again, I think people just like to make shit up pretty much and just try and overcomplicate it. Whereas, like, you can actually do quite well on the keto diet, or you can do carnivore, or you can just blend the two of them together. It doesn't really make any difference as long as you're going low carb.
Yeah,
that's pretty much what it's all about.
And then let's talk about this here, because I've been a carnivore for a while to try and treat my severe OCD, intrusive thoughts, and haven't gotten much relief. And I know there must be something I'm doing wrong. I don't know what to do or where to. At the point where I feel bad for straying away or having to leave strict carnivore. You know what? Just on the surface there, one thing, man, our bodies take time to heal. It takes some time. And I would suggest, just from seeing your comments there, going super high fat. Because if it's your brain and you like focus on maybe even adding some really good quality seafood, omega-3s, high omega-3s, high fat, and that can help sort of the brain a little bit. But, like, that's the problem, is we hear these people that have these glory changes in a week or two, and it's actually so much, it's almost deleterious, because the people that need to heal, get put off because it's like, why is this not happening? And I think
exactly.
the consistency matters.
You absolutely nailed it, Tony, because this is extremely important to understand that if you're coming off like a process, you've been eating shit for all your life, this is not going to happen overnight. So if you have an autoimmune issue, you're suffering with your thyroid, or with men, you're suffering with your testosterone, or you have skin issues, or whatever it is, you have to understand, you have to allow your body to heal first. Now, some people can do that in, say, 4 weeks. Some people, it could take 4 months. So, but what I can say is once you get past that healing process, things get easier very, very quickly. And this is what Tony mentioned at the very, very beginning when he mentioned about calories. And people are just focusing on weight loss and they skip past this. They don't allow their body to heal. We're just focusing too much on the weight loss. So it's like people just want to lose the weight, but they're not addressing the root cause of their problem. And if they don't address the root cause, then yes, you may actually lose weight, but that main cause to that problem is always going to be there. So you have to address that part first.
Yeah. And I think Mark, like what you're saying too, is like, if you're focusing on vitamins and minerals, you got to remember too, B vitamins are everything. They are water soluble. Every single B vitamin we use so much of, and we don't know, like you might be deficient. And there's been some people that have been working with B1 because it's always getting depleted. And if your body's coming from a broken place where it's trying to just get back to a 0 point reset, B1 vitamin, like B1 is essential, and it's high in pork. Some people don't like pork, but it's thiamine, and it's something to be mindful of. Like, it's just your body's getting recalibrated, and it takes time. I've talked some people off the ledge, and I mean, one of my clients, she didn't lose a pound for 6 months because her body was so broken, and it was a hormonal thing. And once I kept just saying, just trust me, just keep with it. And she took a lot of faith in believing in me. When 6 months came, the floodgates opened. Like, her body was like, I am good. And her body fat percentage just started shedding, and her hormones started getting corrected. And it was like, that was where her 0 point was like 6 to 9 months of consistency. And it's hard to keep people inspired when you're, like, you hear about these things happening in 2 weeks. And it's definitely, the more I've kind of come to grips with this, and Peter, you can talk from a type 1 diabetic perspective. Your body's adjusting, and you need to manage your blood sugar.
Yeah, it took a long time, but your vitamin B1 example is also a good one. If you have severe deficiencies, sometimes you cannot solve it with diet alone, and during the first few months you'll have to take supplements. And I hear it a lot for B1, for example. You take therapeutic doses of B1, really large doses of like, I don't know how much, so this is not medical advice, but like 10, 20 times the RDAs.
Yeah, no doubt. And Journey to Health, yes, is there a way you can contact us? Any one of us, just give us a call, just message us on this thing. Mark, it's Fitness Beyond Time 01. I'm Tony Stewart, coach at gmail.com. Peter's Dutch Carnivore, all over the place. And yeah, you know what? We all try and, we're always willing to help people out, and we can talk about that for sure. Thank you for reaching out like that. Now Daniel's back, and he's saying, can you explain how you get energy from fat? Before we do this, I want to explain something in nature. When we have the sun and we have the earth and we have plants and animals, the sun is shining its energy down on plants. It is converting that energy into carbon and hydrogen, carbohydrates, fat, hydrocarbons. It is the same base molecules chained together in different ways. So that's how you get energy. It's energy. It's not from fat or from sugar. It is the energy from the sun. The plants absorb the energy. The animals eat the plants. Whether we eat the plants or the animals, it is energy. It is not protein and minerals and vitamins. This is energy. So it's just a different fuel system that we're using. When we burn fat for energy. It is the same thing. So that's what people don't really understand as well. So anyway. Okay, boys. Well, we're getting into it today. I love it. Thank you very much for all these questions and comments. We really appreciate it. And, you know, we enjoy getting some, we're here to just talk our talk. We've done this stuff, and, you know, we're not doctors, we're not scientists. Each of us have our own little nuanced stories where we've come to this stuff where we just want to help people find their way. And we don't believe in the normal nutritional dogma. And I've got one more video that Mark put out today that we need to discuss, because I'm ready to start a little challenge and eat 12 to 24 eggs a day. But we'll talk about that after.
Stop eating so many eggs. It's the reason why you're overweight. It's not the alcohol that's the problem, and it's not the fucking takeaway either. It wouldn't be the kids' snacks or the lack of movement during the day. Of course, it's the fucking eggs. You already have high cholesterol, then sure, moderation is key. But that many f***ing eggs!
Break that down. It's only 5 eggs per bloke per day.
I wish we had a little thing of Eddie Abu right now. Just eat some fucking eggs. So, you know, I'll let you guys start with this one.
Well, where do you want me to start? Honest to God, it's like, it's just this fear mongering needs to stop. And this is what we were just talking about a few minutes ago about, yes, you can get in amazing shape just by eating shit. I can eat McDonald's every day of the week and I can get in amazing shape, but it's not going to heal my problems. It's not going to heal my gut issues, my mental health issues, if I have any autoimmune issues, if my testosterone is low. It's not going to heal any of that. If you have skin issues, if you're going through it. And this is what we have to understand about proper nutrition. That when it comes to proper nutrition, guys, you need to stop complicating shit. Eggs is probably one of the best foods that you can put in your body, period. Red meat is probably one of the best foods that you can put in your body, period. So when it comes to all this scaremongering about fat and protein, you need to ignore that. You need to ignore the crap about being on a low calorie diet, being on a low fat diet, because that's not the main thing we should be focusing on. We shouldn't be focusing on low calories. We shouldn't be focusing on just getting in shape. We should be focusing on, guys, getting healthy.
Yes.
That's the key. Not just let's put it this way. If you guys are losing weight, that's fantastic. But if you're losing weight at the risk of your health, there's a problem there. There's a problem.
Yes. You know what? And that's what it comes down to. Just eat human food. And you know what? Once your body gets into these natural, intuitive mechanisms, when you strip it down, you know, if you look at these people that are doing a diet for years, and all of a sudden they have this crazy thing that they're either some kind of health condition or something led them to, you know, some disaster, overweight, you know, your diet's wrong. Like, it's just, and what I do is I take it day by day. I started this diet that I'm on, my diet, not the carnivore diet, the Tony diet. I started this for 30 days. And I just kept riding it, simplifying it, tweaking it, feeling it. And if I feel good, I continue. If I don't feel so good, I be honest, I observe it, and then I change the way. And that includes the amount of food I eat. I don't count shit. I'm not afraid to eat a lot of butter. You know, now I feel like my natural intuition is kicking in, where if I'm eating a lean piece of meat, I add more fat naturally. It just happens. And, you know, I play around with carbohydrates once in a while. I'm not afraid of having ice cream once in a while as a treat. But when I do, I observe and I feel. After that ice cream, that's when the experiment begins. How are your cravings? Are your signals telling you to do something that you're not normally doing? How did you sleep? How are you feeling? And these little, like, constant sort of observations with myself, every time I put something in my mouth, I feel it, and I know how my body feels when I'm kind of on cruise control. And go ahead, Mark.
Can I just add one more point as well? Like, I have no idea how many calories I'm eating a day, but I can tell you right now, it's a lot more than what I used to eat like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
20 years ago, I would probably eat around 3,500 calories, and I would have ballooned up. I would have gained so much weight, and I would have looked terrible. I can tell you right now, if I was to calculate my caloric intake right now, I'm eating well over 4,500 calories a day, well over. I'm walking around with a 6-pack. I look the best I've ever felt in my life. I have no health conditions. I feel amazing. So
50 years old, people.
You can come at me with all this argument, all this bullshit, and I'll just tell you, you just need to look at me. Look at my Instagram. Look how well I look. Look at my skin. I look absolutely, I feel incredible. I'm waking up every morning with a purpose now. I don't wake up feeling like, oh, I have to go back to sleep. I don't have any midnight or say midday slumps where I feel like I need to nap. That's all gone.
Yes.
I'm in the best health possible. And I'm never going back to my old ways ever again. Never.
No doubt. That just sums it up right there, Mark. Like we are inundated with you must do. We are inundated with you can't do without. We are inundated with, if you don't do this, you're gonna this. If you don't take this drug, you're gonna die. Well, what the hell did we do before all these things?
Exactly.
How would you have raised your children without this modern way? And people argue, well, we're smarter now. Are we really? Because I'll tell you what, every animal on the planet is smart enough to survive and thrive with no disease and no problems without communication. Whether they communicate telepathically or not, they don't talk. So us trying to prove this or prove that, we're still here and our health has suffered. It's a fact. Every single non-communicable disease is rising. If we were so smart and we did all these things that they're telling us to do and all these drugs were saving our lives, why is our lifespan increasing marginally, but our health span is decreasing? By the time people are 50, 60 years old, how about this, people? Here's a fact. You are being kept alive. You are not living. You are being kept alive.
Mm-hmm.
And I would rather live well, live optimally, and die fast.
Exactly.
Whenever that is.
Nailed it.
Yeah, so, it's amazing that we experience all these things. You can hear all about all these stories, and what you see a lot happening recently on TikTok, especially, is these dietitians that are advocating standard diets and calorie counting. They have no expertise on the ketogenic diet. They have absolutely no clue what it's about. They typically will tell you that it's only has to do with the exclusion of ultra-processed foods. And those people are going to tell us that we're making mistakes and that we shouldn't do it. And when you ask them about why, you just don't get an answer. That's basically how it is.
No doubt. And I'll tell you what, if you've been taught or you've been told and you've never felt it, you don't know. Exactly. Sorry. Simple. I don't care what degree you have from what university. Try and tell me that I feel like shit. Try and tell me I'm dying faster. I'll tell you what, I was a maniac in my 30s. I didn't sleep, did a lot of drugs, was a party animal, rock star, DJ, downtown clubs. I abused my body to the, now that what I feel now compared to what I was doing, I should not be alive. And now knowing this stuff, holy crap. You cannot tell me, it was all coming to a fruition when I turned 40. Everything was failing. My body was breaking down. I was fat as hell. I was diabetic. I couldn't move. And you know what? All those egg bashers and cereal eaters telling me that this isn't the way to live, I'm sorry, but you know what? I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. Thank you very much. And you can keep your education. And we'll see you in 20 years. See how that is.
Exactly.
So that's my rant for the day. Thanks, boys. Anyway, guys, we're getting to the end of the meat of the matter. Everybody, we want to thank everybody for involving yourselves and asking questions, and please help us spread this word. We're just trying to talk about these things. We're just trying to bring it to people's awareness. We're not telling you to do anything. We're just trying to show by the examples we've put on ourselves and how we felt and our journeys. I mean, you know what? Peter is one of the best examples of taking his health in his own hands. He has a type 1 diabetes is not a joke. And for anybody that's not aware of this, if he doesn't manage his diabetes, he's dead. Simple. So trying to tell him scientifically that he's wrong, you think who matters most to Peter? Well, he does. And he's worried about his health 24/7. And you should be worried about your health 24/7. If you're not feeling good, it's time to start getting into it. So Mark, any final thoughts, and how can people get a hold of you?
No, well said, Tony. Well said. And I actually enjoyed it today. That was really, really good. So if you guys want to reach out to me, you can reach out to me on Fitness Beyond Time. I'm on all platforms at Fitness Beyond Time 01. And if you want to send me a direct email, you can send me an email at ennismark93@gmail.com.
Peter?
You can reach me at various platforms as the Dutch Carnivore, and on TikTok I'm mostly doing the Dutch content. On YouTube, some English content as well.
Awesome. And you can reach me at, you can check out my website at tonystewartcoaching.com. Email me at tonystewartcoach@gmail.com, and obviously on YouTube at Tony Stewart Coach. My channel is Food for Thought, Question Everything. And we're just here to try and help you take the power back, because we do believe that there is a system, and whether it's nefarious, sinister, on purpose, money-driven corporate agendas that are here, they're evil. And either way you look at it, you can take the power back. And we're here to help. So we appreciate your help. We're here every Sunday, hopefully at 10 a.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. in the Netherlands, 6 p.m. UK Irish time. When we all catch up, we'll be in sync. But thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today. Thank you for all your questions and comments. Please like and subscribe this. And hey, why not cause some controversy in your life? Share this with a friend who isn't a carnivore. Come and get us. Come and let them talk to us. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Speak soon, guys. Bye-bye.
See you next time.